Hi, Misha here, and this just might be the most successful XL model in Eaglemoss's Star Trek Starship collection. This is, of course, the Klingon K't'inga class Battlecruiser. And it was just released, and by most successful, I mean typically with the XLs, you just get a scaled up of the standard edition with honestly not a lot more detail. You get maybe better paint, sharper, but typically no new structures, elements, bumps, greebles, things like that. And part of that is a testament to how much detail they are able to get into the little models, to be fair. But I think part of it's also the fact that they use CGI models in the manufacturing process. So when they usually do the XLs, they just scale them up literally. But with the K't'inga, there are a number of structures and elements on the XL here that were not present on the original standard edition. And that's, again, I'm not knocking the standard one. It actually is quite detailed given the small 5-inch or so size. But when they blew it up to about 9-10 inches, it gained something. Quite a bit, honestly. Again, this is in the XL or Oversized line. And just for fun, I brought out the special edition, or just maybe large, if that's the extra large. This might be the large. And this is from Star Trek 2009. This is John Eves' take on the D7 or the K't'inga for that film. But generally speaking, it conveys the size difference quite well. This is roughly 7.5 inches to 8. Like I said, the original is, 5 to 6 inches, and the XL, it's purported to be 8.5, but it seems a little larger than that to me. But then again, it's kind of spread out. But it is the largest of the three. The K't'inga was first seen at the very beginning of Star Trek the Motion Picture, 1979. In fact, it was the first new ship we really saw. And it is kind of based, it's an upgraded version of the Koro class planned for Star Trek Phase 2, which itself was an upgrade of the D7 from the original series, which appeared in Season 2 and 3 as both a Klingon and Romulan ship, and really just set kind of the Klingon architecture. It's a very unique, very alien, but also recognizable and just cool, timeless shape. It doesn't scream 1960s. But for the film, they took the same shape and just added more details, more greebles, more engine components. It is a battle cruiser. Some tech manuals report a length of nearly 350 meters, but since the refit Enterprise is right at 300, this doesn't seem right. They also report a crew of 800. Again, it doesn't seem right. More realistic seems to be the figure of about 215 to 225 meters, and a crew in the 400 to 450 range. Obviously, it's warp capable. It really just seems quite analogous to the Constitution class. Probably a little slower because Klingons, but maybe a little more aggressive. We know it has both forward and rear firing photon torpedoes. We know it has disruptors. A few different types have been seen over the years. It is a battle cruiser. While not as cramped as a bird of prey, the whole idea when they were designing it was a submarine, cramped, worn, militaristic, very much metal interior, browns and grays and reds, or so they tell me. Colors, not my strong suit. We have warp engines hanging down, your impulse, along with your rear torpedoes in the back. You have the disruptors on these little flanges. You have this long neck, and then the front being the command section. It does have a shuttle bay, we know of, transporter room, this bulb on the front, as you'd expect, is part of the bridge. Interestingly, what appears to be a photon torpedo launcher in the front. The main thing is actually, or at least originally supposed to be, the deflector dish, although the photon launcher could be right beside it, much like it is on the Enterprise. We first see 3 of these trying to intercept and destroy Vor'cha. They get digitized by ball lightning. This seems to be a new class in 2270, give or take. Some say it's an upgrade of the D7. I've even seen the name D7M used, but it seems to be a new class. Just, based on the same basic space frame. In 2385, we see this being used in the Kobayashi Maru no-win test. And point of fact, that scene from Wrath of Khan was the same footage from the motion picture, just edited. We don't see it again in the films until Star Trek VI, 1991, Undiscovered Country, when the model was refurbished, repainted, and made into Kronos 1, the Chancellor's flagship. It was a little more ornate. They also added some more glowing elements. The same Klingon footage from the motion picture was used in Season 1 and Season 2 of Next Generation. In Season 1, it still seems to be a frontline battlecruiser. In Season 2, we see an older ship that for some reason that's never really explained. The ship is sent on a long duration voyage of about 80 years. The crew kept mostly in hibernation, cryostasis. And we learned from that episode that it launched around 2290 and it had a cloak. So it seems like between 2270 and 2290 cloaks were installed on these, and then later the cloaks must have been upgraded because they refer to the cloak of that era being flawed and allowing some gobbledygook particle out. We definitely know these were upgraded over time. They were still very much in service before and during the Dominion War. There seems to have been a refit program because we see more glowy nacelles. We also see 6 heavy disruptors, kind of red beam disruptors installed. That seems to have been a pretty recent update, as well as, again, modernizing the cloak. These are still referred to as kind of old Katinga's old battlecruisers, but they're still there. They seem to be very durable space frames, and maybe not quite a match for a Constitution, a refit at any rate, because in the motion picture, one of these is wiped out by one shot from V'ger, yet the Enterprise does survive one hit, so at least if nothing else, the Constitution has more powerful shielding. We don't actually see these in combat much, at least not until the Dominion War. Interestingly, a CGI model was made for the Dominion War, but they also used, and I shouldn't just say Dominion War, but also beginning with Season 4, the Klingon human conflict as well. But in addition to using CGI then, they also used Hallmark models and toys and whatnot to blow them up, but as background. And again, this was the era of standard definition television. Funnily enough, the very first CGI model of a Katinga was created in 1981 when the effects studio was trying to show their capabilities before Wrath of Khan, and that would actually lead to them getting the job of making the Genesis effect, so one of the earliest uses of CGI in film, and it was a Katinga, along with the Enterprise. In the Deep Space Nine era, the Katinga would be one of the earliest models to be CGI'd. It would appear throughout the Dominion War, and it would appear quite anachronistically in Voyager, where it was even called the D7 on screen. But at least when they did the Tribbles episode of Deep Space Nine, they did actually use a true D7. Good on them. And then when Voyager did their episode Flashback, they actually used the studio model for the Katinga for that, which perfectly fits. One of the last times the studio model was really used, except for, recycling footage. But of course, the most infamous use of the Katinga was when it was in Episode 5 of Season 1 of Enterprise, which took place in 2151, even though John Eves designed and Rob Bonchun and his team created a CGI, later known as the D4, which was a very fitting Enterprise-era battlecruiser. The producers, throwing a fit, ended up using the Katinga, claiming that they didn't think Star Trek fans would notice. But I have a whole video on that, as well as the D4 model itself from Eaglemoss, so you can check that out. Oops. So we're going to do that once. And like I said, we've had the John Eves Kelvinverse version for quite a while now, which actually I really like. And I think it does a good job of bridging the gap between the Enterprise era of Klingon ships and the modern era. I often like to think of this as a D6, since we don't have a D6, but with, logically there should be one. So I think it fits quite well. Seems like the secondary ships from the Kelvinverse are pretty neat. Just some of the primaries are a little odd, but anyway. I just brought it out to kind of show you the scale, since this is a good representation of their large, not extra large, or just their medium size. Price-wise, they're right in the middle too. Hopefully I was able to get some elements of this model on camera for you. I really do feel like it has more detail than the standard edition. It's also relatively heavy. The neck and front part are plastic. The whole back is metal, top and bottom. I believe the nacelles are plastic, but yeah, but the wings coming out there are metal. So it's got good weight, and it's nicely balanced in the back, meaning it's not going to just walk off the stand. Like a lot of the XLs, it doesn't clip in too heavily, but unless you're just rough with it, it's not going to fall off. Typically, Eaglemoss is pretty quick in getting these models out, but this one was delayed. It was supposed to be out in early February. It did not get released until here the last week in February. Kind of makes me wonder if there are some last minute changes. But regardless, yeah, I really think for once the XL is worth it. There's a lot of them I have no interest in, for example the Runabout or the Bird of Prey. I don't really need a larger version, but this has always been one of my favorite designs, so this along with the XL Warbird I thought definitely deserved the XL treatment. I like the Warbird, but it doesn't seem to have a whole lot more detail than the standard edition. It's just a larger vessel, but this really does. And again, it's pretty much appeared in every Star Trek media since the motion picture in one way or another. So yeah, just wanted to present this to you. If you'd like to have more nerdy ramblings on the Klingon fleet, I've got a couple of different fleet overviews and even one where I ranked the 12 Eaglemoss Klingon ships we've been given. So check that out if you like. Any questions, please do post them below. Otherwise, I greatly appreciate you tuning in, and I will catch you very soon next time.